Welcome in another week, another squad show on Locked On Vikings and Locked On Sports Minnesota. We're so glad you're with us. I'm Sam Ekstrom. We do this every Monday and every Thursday, talking Vikings football for the next hour on an episode that today is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And hey, folks, make sure to check us out after the fact. If you don't catch us live, find our audio on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed, where Luke Braun produces great daily Vikings content. Make him your second listen. We're your first one. Make him your second one over at Locked On
Push him down the pile for us.
Let's meet today's panel. Who we got on the crew today?
I'm Arif Hasan. I write for Wide Left Football, and I have information that could lead to the arrest of Luke Braun.
And I'm Luke Braun. I do Locked On Vikings. I did not defraud Dallas Turner.
So he says. I'm saying
can't be any clearer about that. I had nothing to do with that.
I think we just celebrated the 3rd anniversary of this show, by the way. The Rest in Peace Minnesota football party up until a couple weeks ago.
So now, each 3-year birthday was to take it out back? That's crazy.
It graduated. It graduated to a higher calling, the squad show calling.
That is quite the youth. I'm going to start using that one.
And today on the squad show, Josh Metellus is extended. He's locked up. The core is locked up. The roster is solidified.
He won't be graduating for a number of years now.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
So I think math-wise, that means that the Minnesota Football Party had the same career as Louis Cine did with the Vikings.
Longer.
Yeah.
It had 3 years and then replaced.
Yeah, and honestly, the terrible broken leg the show suffered was not entirely to blame for its demise, but it didn't help.
What was the equivalent of our broken leg in our rookie year? Try to think about that.
I don't remember anything from that year.
Cine got dumped the start of his 3rd year. We lasted a full 3rd year. So really, yeah, we exceeded.
We outlasted.
We outplayed Louis Cine. Good. All right.
Yeah, great.
Justin Jefferson
more of a Stacey Coley. Got it.
Justin Jefferson's out for a week with a hamstring. We concerned? Not concerned. Other camp steam, Lucky Jackson stock. Yes, Sloth. It is rising. And we get more into this Minnesota Vikings rebuild and the job done by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah with the latest signing of Josh Metellus. That's our starting point today. Josh Metellus, 3 years, $36 million.
I think Macho Michi is correct that you should play the sound.
Why not? If it happens over the weekend or late on a
Friday.
I
usually am not on his side on these things, but here I think it's a good point. Hey,
boom! Metellus locked up, 3 years, 36. Up as high as 42, guarantee of 25. That is the 9th highest safety guarantee, tied for 14th in average annual value. Doesn't quite get to Cam Bynum's level. We were using that as the doppelganger when we talked on Thursday. Bynum made 15 per year.
I mean, you were.
But the guarantee is like $1 million apart. Bynum got 26 guaranteed. Metellus gets 25. It's locked up through 2028. Would you like to hear the rundown of key Vikings and how long they are locked up for? Because it is sweet. So through 26, that's through next season, O'Neal, Jones, Kelly, Mason, Phillips, Hargrave, Blackman, Van Ginkel, Brandel, Cashman, and Pace via RFA. Through 27, so 3 years left. Grenard, Murphy, Jonathan Allen, Theo Jackson, Hawkinson, Addison via the option. 28, you've got Jefferson, McCarthy with the option, Oliver, Metellus, and Turner with the option. Through 29, you've got Darisaw, Fries, and Jackson. The turnover next year, sure, bottom of the roster, yeah, there's going to be turnover. But you've got that core. That's like 25 names locked up for multiple seasons now.
That's not bad. And the Vikings are only like negative $30 million in cap next year. We're Gucci.
It's fine.
Two moves.
It's all base salary, all right? It's
Two
all
moves
there's
and you're
it's
good.
it's all getting restructured. It's gonna be totally fine. Nobody look at it, all right? It's totally fine.
So
It's
all
so
right.
weird. It's loaded into that year specifically, and then like nothing in the next year.
And then everything else is like you've got like 90 million in projected
yeah,
cap
right.
space.
It's like why is it like this?
no idea. I mean, it does give them
Just
like the
restructure
flexibility.
and even it out, and it'll be fine. But it's
Yeah.
like, why is it like? Why not do that? From I don't
But
know.
it gives them a lot of flexibility to determine,
Yeah, I
like,
guess.
actually, we don't like this guy, so we're just
We
going
can
to
just cut
this
people,
part of
yeah.
yeah. I do want to shout out Tyler Fornes, who, when predicting the Josh Metellus contract, got incredibly close, and he did it not by looking necessarily at safeties, but by looking at nickel corners and modeling the contract based off of the nickel corner market. So his prediction was 3 years, $34.5 million with $23 million fully guaranteed, which is outstandingly close. $1.5 million off in total, $2 million off in fully guaranteed. So I thought that he did a really great job. Kyler Gordon, Travarius Ward, Teron Johnson, Jordan Lewis, those are all nickel corners that sometimes play full-time. And then Jalen Petrie, who's a safety who also plays nickel corner. These are all like reasonably appropriate models for kind of determining what a versatile safety might do. So props to him for doing that.
Kale Chips with a valid call out. We sure that cornerback room is solidified, Sam.
No,
All I have to say to that is gotcha. I gotcha. I mean, with the title, I gotcha. I think he's right. I think the cornerback would still be the missing piece, but of players that are on this roster, there's no longer a contract that I think we have to wonder about or worry about. I think that everybody in-house is now taken care of. Now the question is, do you, and because I don't think this is new money, is there new money coming in this year for Metellus? Because you still have, in theory, a couple bucks to make a cornerback move. That would be the final piece.
It depends on how much is signing bonus. There could be like whatever chunk of that is in this year would be
divided by
there, but
3,
we don't
yeah.
have that answer
Yeah.
quite yet. I'm sure there's some, but it's not going to be enough to put them.
Yeah,
over the
we'll
cap
have to
maybe.
see kind of what because it's not out on like over the cap or spot track or anything like that yet. So we'll have to see what the structure looks like to see how it impacts this year's cap, because it's like 3 years added on to the current deal, but the signing bonus activates now, unless some of it's also like in a guaranteed option bonus, which that has been happening a little bit more often now. Actually, a really great Brett Coleman video about the nature of option bonuses and how the proration of those has changed the way cap accounting works. I recommend watching that. I also recommend watching a bunch of Brett Coleman videos. He just had one on Bob Sanders. Outstanding work.
Bob Sanders, Iowa Hawkeye legend.
Play the sound, Sam.
Ooh.
Don't have to ask me twice.
According to intrepid journalist Cordarrelle Patterson has been released on his day off.
Read the tweet.
On his day off.
He said,
tweet is great.
"Breaking news! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Pittsburgh Steelers release old washed up Cordarrelle Patterson on his day off."
So good.
We bringing him in? The return?
Yeah, you need a returner, right? That's outstanding work from CBAT.
We only have like 4 people who are currently projected to make the roster in a return job.
I know we're
most self-aware Cordarrelle Patterson moment. We just witnessed it.
we're on the
That's
verge
him
of
so
having
much.
another
That's so good.
Adam Thielen trade rumor cycle. Like we had one at the deadline, then in the offseason, and now again. I think we'll probably have a Thielen to the Vikings circuit that we'll have to endure. But would Patterson coming back be even better vibes than Thielen coming back?
It would be exclusively vibes. I would expect nothing but vibes from that.
All vibes.
I honestly, Sam, you might be right, which is weird, right? Because Thielen provided so much more to the franchise. And, like, he's like, oh, small town Minnesota boy. He always showed up to games in his, like, Joe Mauer jersey because he knew the score, right? and
he knew his audience.
Yeah, and he's like, he's almost doing Kemp's ads, right? Like, he's like the Minnesota boy, right, from Detroit Lakes. And CPAT was like, you could call me Flashy or Flash, I don't know. And then he just wouldn't do anything as a receiver. But yeah, I think the vibes would be better with CPAT.
Someone replied to his tweet, "Took long enough." And he responded to that, "Right? I said the same S." I don't know if Cordarrelle Patterson's coming back, folks. That sounds like a guy who knows he's done.
I think he would take a contract if someone offered it, but I don't know that he'll be shopping himself.
That's hilarious.
Does Patterson still return / have the juice? James Kunow, I will believe he doesn't have return juice when I see it. So for now, yes, he does.
I think his answer might be no.
Job. Yeah. RB3. What do you think?
It's true. Yeah.
Ty Chandler.
RB3 and kick returner. Yeah, he's just an upgrade on Ty Chandler. Wait.
Yeah, there you go.
We're cooking. Get him.
Yeah. Let's go. Well, okay. Speaking of Ty Chandler, it sounds like Xavier Scott has caught the eye of multiple Vikings camp reporters, which is good for me because he's one of my guys' TM. But I don't know that Ty Chandler has got this one going for him at all.
We were supposed to have our preseason fantasy draft today, but Inman decided to take PTO, so we're going to have to delay that probably till next week. Back on the secondary.
You guys get PTO?
Crazy, right? I can't believe they do it, but they somehow do. Jeff Okuda, what if he's good? What if he just needed to be unlocked? I think that's Braun. You're obviously concerned about this.
What if I made an hour-long Patreon video and a Locked On Vikings episode about it?
That happened.
What if that happened
I've said this all offseason. Like, you don't.
What if you wrote about any of these things?
I won't be writing it.
God.
It's good. No, I do have a Patreon video about Jeff Okuda. I watched a couple games because I was like, wait, we have to maybe take him seriously as like the Shaq Griffin of this year. So I watched a couple of his games, did that, also made a podcast out of it. Yeah, go watch that. What were you going to ask him?
Yeah, I'm going to ask, what is the source of the Vikings' confidence? Is it in player, Okuda, or maybe it's Blackman? We don't know who's going to start. Is it in the confidence in the personnel or confidence in the system, in the development process? Like why would the Vikings build this magnificent roster and pay everybody who they need to pay?
Temple of a roster.
And build this
and then be like Jeff Okuda starter and shove him out there.
And have this front seven and have everything perfect except this one apparently glaring need.
You've built the Taj Mahal, but for some reason one of the columns is granite. I don't know.
Yeah,
the bathrooms are a mess.
That is kind of what it feels like. So when it comes to like the zone coverage stuff that I think will be the vast majority of what Okuda does, it looked fine to me on tape. I didn't get a ton of those reps. I only watched a couple of games from Houston. They didn't really live like that. They loved to put him in press man, which to put everybody in press man because D'Amico Ryan's just insane. Anytime he blitzed, press man. That was like the way they wanted to live. And that doesn't really translate to Minnesota. That's not how Flores likes to live when he blitzes. He likes off man or zone coverages behind those blitzes. So it'll be different. And in the translatable situations, yeah, it looked fine. It looked like, yeah, you can play deep third. Like, that's fine. But I think the thing that stood out the most to me with Okuda was, despite everything, a very cocky brand of football. He will be 3 yards off of you, and he will not backpedal even though you chew up his cushion. He won't maintain his cushion. He'll just stand, feet in the ground, and stare at you. And that very purposefully. He does it the exact same way every rep, which is a confidence that, hey, I can get my hips turned and run with you if you do release outside my frame, and I'm not going to move until you are outside my frame. So you either have to go through me or pick a side, and I'm not going to do anything to give you any ground at all until you do pick that side. The advantage of that is that it sort of forces the receiver to declare, and it compresses their space and you can get a hand on them. The disadvantage of that, obviously, is that when they do break, you have no time to react to it. You have to be instant and you have to be really fast in terms of transitioning, turning, running. But he still does, despite all the injuries and everything, he still does have that like fluidity that everyone was really excited about coming out. The way he can, like, his hips are very smooth, and it's like a cliche for corners, but it's really like, wow, he can really like turn around and get going really fast. It's like very, very smooth. So he can still rely on that ability. The problem is in the NFL, there are guys everywhere like Jamar Chase, who they will face week 3, or like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's really quick, who they'll face twice, that can take advantage of even the tiniest little, microsecond of a mistake and can take advantage of that and turn it into separation. So Okuda, essentially, I think he's been asking himself to be perfect, and he's not quite perfect. But if you don't let him play press man all the time, you might be able to sort of mitigate that issue a lot. So that's what I think the vision is there, hopefully. What I'm watching for, though, is he indeed taking all of the CB3 reps, which it sounds like he has so far. So it sounds like Blackman isn't even competing for this job. It just is his, which it's like, all right, then that's something.
I need to go back in the 2023 newspaper clippings and figure this out. So Okuda for Atlanta, he started weeks 4 through 13, and in weeks 12 and 13, so the final 2 weeks of his stint, he got absolutely toasted. Like gave up 103 yards in a game, 141 yards in the game, and then it seems like he got benched or like reduced role. I want to know whether that was injury related, whether that Atlanta literally benched him because he was bad that season. I think that'd be telling. What games did you watch, by the way? Like, what did you watch? Atlanta Okuda, Lions Okuda,
Houston, and it was the couple of games that he played the most in. I wanted the most recent thing, and I wanted him to actually play. So I took the Chiefs game where he played the entire second half, and the Ravens game, just because I kind of wanted to see him against. I wanted to see Zay Flowers really, and see how he dealt with that, and also that one just also had more reps to it. And what was interesting is Houston used him as a 3rd and long guy kind of exclusively, except for like the end of the Ravens game where it was blowout mode, and the second half of the Chiefs game where I think they made some kind of adjustment because they did that, but then they didn't like stick with it. Maybe somebody got hurt, I'm not sure, but it would be only 3rd and longs and 2-minute situations. So he would be in, only moments where the offense had like 14 yards that they had to get right now. And then they'd put him in press man and blitz. It was a very interesting way to handle that when you're going up against like Mahomes. Like that's a really interesting Mahomes and Lamar Jackson game plan. Here's our good game plan. We're going to man cover everybody in blitz against these running quarterbacks. It's a really interesting decision.
Yeah. I think there's almost always a shifting of the winds. Like after week 1 of training camp, we think we know what the team's idea is, and then they totally pull the 180 and they change the depth chart. And I think that could easily happen here if they're not seeing what they want to see from Okuda. I think that Blackman could be at the ready. But pads come on this week, and that's going to entirely change the complexion as well with the press coverage. No practice yesterday. I think they're back at it today. They had a walkthrough on Friday. So really there's only been one real practice since our last show on Thursday. We'll have some camp nuggets out of there, talk about Lucky Jackson stock, talk about the receivers without Justin
real quick
Jefferson.
Before we do a break, I just want to answer James Kunau's question. PFF logs him as giving up those yards. Sam was not just reciting the stats of the wide receiver one. He was reciting the yards assigned by at least 2 game charters to Jeff Okuda, which game charters can be wrong, but I think that that's a reasonable approximation for his level of performance in those 2023 games. Sorry, I just wanted to get that question before we moved on to the next segment.
Nope, good clarification. We'll be right back. Talk about Lucky Jackson. Why wouldn't we? Brought to you today by FanDuel. Summer sports still in full swing, whether you're about the baseball, the golf, the 3M Open here over the weekend, drama on Sunday. Kurt Kitayama gets the job done after he shot a 60 on Saturday. That probably paid a nice price if you had him before the tournament. A lot of high-stakes soccer action as well at FanDuel. WNBA, Lynx, lost. What? But with the WNBA and with FanDuel, you can put together a same-game parlay. That's a lot of fun. Live wagering options available. There's new daily promotions at FanDuel, too, which create some fun ways to bet. So check it out in the FanDuel Sportsbook app or FanDuel.com. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Oh, Luke Braun's gone. Okay, great. Let's keep going.
Braun gone. It's
lost to the Atlanta Dream, right? That was a crazy game.
Yeah, and lost at home too.
Yeah,
it would be a very good strategy for the Lynx to just win every single home game because they're probably the number 1 seed. Just never lose at home, and you win the WNBA title. I mean, that's
easy.
the path. Done.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't think of that.
Yeah. So now that strategy has been jeopardized. So Lucky Jackson has been filling in for the injured Justin Jefferson. First, the injury.
What?
Hamstring tightness, mild strain, it sounds like, out for a week. I'm not mashing the panic button. I'm a 3 out of 10. Like, I don't like to hear that there's some soft tissue stuff going on with the best player on the team. I'm also not tripping over it. He's got so much time to heal. They can give him longer than he needs. And he's not going to play in the preseason. I mean, frankly,
He never
I don't
was. Yeah.
No. Like, I know there's chemistry that needs to be developed with JJ McCarthy. I get that.
Chemistry. Yeah.
I'm also not tripping. It's July.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the way when reporters talk to Justin Jefferson, which, first of all, the fact that they made him available after this injury, I suggests how unserious this injury is. But he said that, like, it's day 2 of training camp, not day 30, which I think also suggests how unserious this injury is, right? Like, if it were like day 30 of training camp or, preseason practice, right? Because colloquially, when training camp is closed to the public, that's when we say it's over, but they still continue to have practices. That would change his outlook because he'd be more likely to practice, is what it sounded like he said. So, like, yeah, I don't think that matters. Lucky Jackson has been taking a ton of snaps in response to this, which I find interesting. What was kind of interesting is that Caller reports that the day that Jefferson kind of pulled himself out of practice because of this hamstring tightness, it was Rondale Moore who was kind of first up to take that spot, which has not been the case in the following practices. It's been a lot of Lucky Jackson. We've seen a little bit of Ty Felton. And the reports from a couple of the reporters that I've been reading have said that Ty Felton has looked good and that he's got good hands. Also, notably, the pads have not come on yet. So we'll see, and given that is his weakness profile, we'll see how that impacts those things. But yeah, it's like Lucky Jackson seems to be getting a good chunk of those. It sounds like McCarthy is doing reasonably well with that group. He's playing against the 2s, right? It's a bunch of 1s versus 2s in camp so far. So, take it with a grain of salt. But Lucky Jackson seems to be demonstrating that, he's got some juice.
Who is Lucky Jackson? I think we should remind people.
XFL All-Star,
Yeah.
Lucky Jackson, deep ball
DC
specialist
defender.
with the DC Defenders, who I believe won that year, right? Incredible work. 36 catches, 573 yards.
No, they should have won, but they lost in a stunner to the Arlington Renegades.
Oh, yeah. BS. It was all Texas. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was a remarkable year. But yeah, no, he's a bit of a deep ball specialist. So it should be fun to see him get unleashed if that's like a thing that translates.
Third year, by the way. Like, this is a third, almost like a practice squad journeyman, if you will. Third year on the roster. So it makes sense that they would devote those snaps early in camp to someone who understands the system. And also it sounds like Ty Felton is getting work above Rondale Moore, which is intriguing. But Lucky Jackson, Luke Braun, I don't think he was on anybody's roster radar. I don't think anybody had him on their projected 53s. But you know who this is bad for? Tim Jones. This is bad for Tim Jones.
They're not competing for the same spot, Sam. You know that.
Yeah. Well, unless I need to hear the gunner depth chart. I think that will tell you a lot. The punt gunner depth chart, because wide receiver 6, that guy ain't getting on the field. That guy's not about. That is not a spot that you give to the 6th best receiver necessarily. You give it to the best gunner. And I still think that Ty Felton and Tim Jones are the two the highest potential gunner pair on the roster. But we'll see. I think a lot of that gets decided in preseason too. But yeah, no, Lucky Jackson has, because he's been here for a while, he always has felt like, the 7th, 8th guy in that receiver room. Which is, I mean, that's not that far of a leap, Get better than a couple of Tim Jones types, and suddenly you're making a play for the roster. So he'd be a pretty cool story. Be fun.
Notably, Luke Braun was highest on Lucky Jackson in our roster rankings. Followed one rank below was Sam Ekstrom. And then several ranks below that, was Luke Inman, and then I'm the hater. So
Classic Arif.
XFL hater, Arif Hasan.
Classic.
Look at
yeah.
Lucky Jackson was draft eligible in 2020.
When undrafted, it went to the Spring Football League, which is a thing that existed. Yeah. And then the CFL, and then the XFL. He was like a 4th round draft pick in the CFL? The XFL? I don't know. It's weird. Or 11th round. It's weird because they do like position only rounds, so you can't really be like
it's not.
round. So yeah,
That might have been the second receiver round or whatever.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, undrafted in 2020, which Shirley asks in chat, Western Kentucky alum. You are correct. Western Kentucky alum, Lucky Jackson.
Where I'm told he had a 93-yard touchdown against Middle Tennessee State, the longest play in Western Kentucky history.
That sounds like you're reading it off of Wikipedia, Sam.
I'll never say. I don't cite my sources. Justin Jefferson's injury, Luke Braun, is there a red flag for you, or are you good? You good with the timeline?
No,
status?
It's fine. This is, if ever there was a time to be like overly ridiculously cautious on it, like put him in bubble wrap till week 1. Who cares? He's not going to be part of the preseason. The only thing that would be a little bit of a bummer to miss would be the joint practices. But even those, like we know that Justin Jefferson will be ready to start the season. This sort of acclimation and, competition period and all that stuff is not really about these guys at the top of the roster. So I think it's both fine, but also it is kind of fun that we get to see who goes in now. Run or more, Lucky Jackson. Like it camp is a zero-sum game. So when someone like Justin Jefferson misses a rep, every rep he misses is an opportunity for somebody else. And that also means that anytime something good happens, you will always be able to be like, but it sucks because look how bad that coverage was. So you can be as annoying as you want to be.
This is perfect for a person like me.
We're 2 weeks from Patriots joint practice week. I think he'll be active for that. That's really where you get to have some fun and see him at 100%
against Christian Gonzalez. That should be real fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's going to be a spicy week. Stephon Diggs,
JJ McCarthy, Drake May,
Garrett Bradbury.
Who's that first person you said, Sam? Steven?
Steven. Yes.
Okay. Like a HaHa Clinton Dix relative.
Like HaHa Clinton Dix's younger second cousin.
Steven.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. When we return, we've got more news and notes and nuggets from Vikings training camp and also some perspective on the competitive rebuild.
Game time.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Workplace stress is at an all-time high. 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. Summer's the perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness, manage the challenges that come with your workday. Summer gives us the opportunity to get outside more, exercise your body, prioritize yourself, your health, your wellness. And it's important to talk that through with somebody, to process it, come up with a plan. And that's where some online therapy can come in. You can fit those sessions into a busy schedule with BetterHelp because they are extremely flexible. And you can have boundaries around it too, whenever the sessions work for you. So as the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. It's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, plenty of rumblings from Minnesota Vikings training camp, including Jordan Mason in the passing game. Not something he was known for necessarily in San Francisco. What do we think about Jordan Mason? 3-down back, passing back, with Aaron Jones also being a good passing back as well. What do we think?
Makes sense to me. Jordan Mason in the passing game was a strength as well in San Francisco. However, running backs in camp in particular is one of those things because they don't tackle that you will get a lot of wrong, because a lot of people won't really realize that guy would have been tackled after a 2-yard gain in a real game and go, whoa, look at him run.
Yeah, there's a clip going around of Cam Scadaboo having a 40-yard run, which if you know anything about Scadaboo is not realistic. That's just not going to happen ever in the NFL. I'm putting money on it. But he ran like a 4.66, and everyone was surprised at how fast that was, right? Like, so that's just, and a fantasy analyst quote tweeted that with like, it doesn't matter that Tyrone Tracy is taking all the RB1 reps in Giants camp. Nick Chubb didn't take over until week 10, which is just an outstanding comparison to the 35th overall pick, a super athlete who only fell because of injury, Nick Chubb, who actually took over prior to week 10. And I just look, if Cam Scadaboo is getting fantasy analysts excited because he had a 40-yard run in camp, we all have to be careful about any running back highlight that we ever see. And I like Jordan Mason, right? It's just, you got to be careful. Receiving game stuff is nice because it is a little bit more translatable. At least a catch is a catch in that scenario. Again, we'll see kind of what happens with the Pats come on, but for Jordan Mason, that's a player where I'm not that concerned where physicality is going to impact his game too much. But yeah, I like him. It'd be nice to see, him have a more well-rounded game than the impression that we had of him coming in. And I think that would enable the Vikings to more concretely do the drive-by-drive stuff that they like doing as opposed to the situational stuff that they often found themselves doing, especially prior to Kevin O'Connell, but that they often found themselves doing. I think the drive-by-drive stuff is just kind of what they want, is their jam. And if you can have Aaron Jones, run the ball, pass protect, catch the ball, and Jordan Mason run the ball, pass protect, catch the ball, you're in a really good spot. I'm not expecting a 25-yard reception from this guy, but it'd be nice to move the chains.
He was not a pass catching guy at Georgia Tech either. Just checked on that. Had like 26 in a 4-year career. It's like well under one a game. But that's fine. I mean, I think if you're right, Arif, if he has the skill set, you don't need to have some like Jones coming off the field and saying, hey, let's put in the pass catching guy, or vice versa. You don't have to take Mason off the field and say, all right, third down, we need a pass catching back on the field. I think they can both do it, and they can both fulfill like whatever the timeshare schedule is. All right, this series is going to be Mason. He can do it all. We don't have to worry about taking him off. This is Mason's drive. I think it's going to function that way a lot, to be honest with you, because Kevin O'Connell said it. He said it's a 1A, 1B. I don't think that this is a starter backup situation. They can all come on. They can all do it all. Jordan Mason was not Christian McCaffrey. I guess we can say that. He was not Christian McCaffrey from a pass-catching perspective.
Yeah.
It's very true. You would never mix those two guys up.
At San Francisco. But, this is the same organization that told us that Adrian Peterson was getting close as a pass catcher. That didn't come to fruition. So I don't know what to believe. But I'd like to think.
Well, that's I don't. Does anybody still work in that building that was there? Is there so much as
institutional memory, Luke? Just
institutional memory. I don't even think the same posters are on the wall. Is there so much as a security guy?
Also, so Macho Meech, you offered me a bet on the show. You said you'll bet me $20 even money that Cam has a play from scrimmage over 39.5 yards this season. I will not take a bet on air. My email address is arifhasan@gmail.com, but I refuse to take a bet on a recorded line.
That's very legal of you. That's a very that's a very good thing to do. I have 2 points. One, if we're gonna talk about like what is getting fantasy analysts excited, I think this time of year you just got to let fantasy analysts go and let them burn off some energy like a dog that's a little too excited.
Like play in the,
you just let them run around the house a couple times.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like if they're too pent up in the season, it's just going to be too much, right? And then they'll start chewing on the couch. But for two, one concern that I have with this running back duo. And I think it's like that's cool if they both have the kind of versatile skill set. You don't have to specialize, and you can just have Jordan Mason out for a drive, and he can do anything. That my problem is on third and long is CJ Ham still going to be the pass protector, because if those two guys can't pass block, and it has to be CJ Ham, that means the little dump off swing pass idea that, oh my God, they left the flat uncovered, and you can get a whole bunch of yards and turn a 3rd and 17 into maybe a 4th and 2 you decide about. That potential is kind of gone, which like we've seen the Vikings give up that 3rd and long. So I kind of want it to be an option for the Vikings, but not if those two guys can't protect in the pass, which, with no pads, again, you can't tell at all, but that's something I'll be watching for if Jordan Mason even plays in the preseason, which I don't know, will he?
Doubt it. I don't know.
Interesting
I
question.
feel like you
for our preseason fantasy draft, Luke Inman.
pretty relevant.
He does feel like the kind of guy I would draft and then be like, wait.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hold on.
I would draft really high and then like 2 rounds later be like, oh no, he's not gonna, is he? Like,
I don't know. First round pick, probably toss up between Xavier Scott and Trey Stewart. Maybe Lucky Jackson. You got to find those.
Running back's gonna be tough because I think there's only 3 that are gonna play on the roster.
The guys that are gonna play big snaps all 3 games. Let's get to some comments because we got some good ones here. Over under from Casey: McCarthy rushing or scrambling QBs? TDs. What am I saying?
Yeah.
Rushing or scrambling TDs.
It's
for JJ
okay.
McCarthy.
That's actually high. 3.5 is the over under for me. What do we think about that?
I was going to say 4.5, so that's close.
Yeah, I was going to say 4.5, and I was like, that's high. So
when you say scrambling TDs, that's the same as rushing TDs. They're just playing.
Yeah, just TDs that he scores with his legs.
Yeah, 3.
Okay.
I don't know if this matters. Let's look what he did in college.
Probably not a ton. I mean, like, I'm sure there'll be a QB sneak here or there and like 1 or 2 plays, right? Like that's kind of what you're looking for, but this is not going to be.
Yeah, I just think that
Stafford.
they really do want to have the threat of the traditional running back run in the red zone, and you only have so many red zone trips in a season, so that's kind of my approach to this.
Like they won't be like read optioning it. It's got to be like a break the pocket scramble.
Yeah,
which man, Kirk got 2 of those in a season. Like that's not this like a crazy thing to predict a couple, but and then your first and goal from the 1 QB sneaks.
Yeah,
5 rushing TDs in 14 games in 22. 3 TDs in 15 games in 23. So over 29
and we're
games.
we're pretty confident that is just much more likely in college. So I think we made a
correct.
good
3. So the line's 3.5.
Okay, great.
How many did Kirk score not from the 1-yard line? He had the one like wild one against Arizona where I think he ran like 20 yards down the sideline. That's the one.
Just the goofiest dad runner you've ever seen.
I think that one was the first ever bold prediction to hit on Locked On Vikings because I believe it was Kyle Slaby, who listens to this show sometimes, predicted that Kirk Cousins would have more rushing yards than Kyler Murray in that game and was right.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to use the play finder from StatHead. So give me a second, and I can find out the answer to your specific question.
Well, while you work on that, Macho Meach brings this up. Somebody else brought it up earlier, too. Bill Barnwell identified J.J. McCarthy as his top player under pressure this year. And people are a little outraged. They're like, nah, he's not under pressure. And I don't think he's under pressure in the sense that he's going to lose his job, which maybe Barnwell insinuated a little bit because Barnwell did say, well, Kirk Cousins could be out there. Sam Darnold could be cut by Seattle.
Jesus Christ.
That was part of the write-up. I hate it.
Oh,
also,
my God. Move on.
There is immense pressure, though. Like, that's
Teddy Bridgewater could be out there. Donovan McNabb could be out there.
Jesus Christ.
It's not
Come up
pressure.
with one new idea about the Vikings, please. I am begging you.
All right, so Kirk has had 2, both against the Cardinals, actually, 2 touchdowns over 1 yard. The 2022 one against the Cardinals, scrambles right end, 17 yards, touchdown. And then 2018, not even marked in the play-by-play as a scramble, although that is a relatively recent addition to play-by-play, so it might have been, right? Right end, 7 yards for a touchdown. Otherwise, it's a bunch of 1-yarders, plus I just did anything that ended in a score, and he had an aborted snap for the Falcons that ended up in looks like a safety. So,
I remember the 7-yarder because he did the goofy like dead arm dance where he was.
Oh yeah! Wow. We were in for 5 more years of that.
Yep.
Yeah, it was, but it was like then that we knew, right? We knew we
were like, oh, this is what this is going to be like.
Right? Plane of possibilities stretched out before us, and we saw all of our futures. And we were like, oh, dead arm dance, got it.
To go back to Sam's question, there's two different kinds of like under pressure, right? When people say JJ McCarthy's under pressure, they're saying the Vikings won 14 games and the expectation is that you must improve every year. Wow, he has to be really good. He has to win 15 games now. I think that's a little
silly.
bit. That's like a child's understanding of how the internal dynamics of a corporation work. Like that's not how this is going to be. JJ McCarthy's expectation is that he has to run this offense and do so successfully enough that all the really good, talented players around him can have the seasons you expect them to have. Right. And whether or not that leads to winning 14 games again, that's a hard thing to do, is a pretty bad barometer for like how the rookie QB looks. And I would expect somebody who has been covering the league for as long as Bill Barnwell has to be able to like discern that. So that's pretty disappointing. When we hear QB under pressure, or like you think like hot seat, right? His seat is not hot. He is going to be at the helm of this team for the next 3 seasons. That is pretty much written in ink, injury notwithstanding. So no, he's not under any pressure. And I think they understand that he's in his first year and they probably expect some of those mistakes, but they built a team around him that can give him the space to do that, which is the whole idea here.
I'm so confused about that approach because like the Eagles won 14 games last year. I don't think anyone would characterize their season as disappointing if they went 13-4 and then made the playoffs.
Change quarterbacks, which is what people are pointing out. Like if they got rid of Jalen Hurts and then like went to a dude that they drafted, people will be like, wow, they're putting quite a lot on that young kid. That's what they're saying, but it's just like really one-dimensional.
Well, that also it still doesn't strike me as like particularly meaningful, right? Because I don't think it actually like I understand that like if Jalen Hurts has a disappointing season by any metric, right? If they like go 9-8 or whatever, right? That generally speaking, people will give him grace, and so this is not a high pressure season in the same context. But the metric that he's using, stepping back instead of stepping forward, I think wouldn't prevent us from not saying that a 13-win season from the Eagles was disappointing, right? Like I think there's the pressure emerges from disappointment, expectation, and the change and all that, right? So I get that, but the disappointment element is kind of independent of all of that, right? And so you would have to be convinced that a 13-win season or a 12-win season for the Vikings would be disappointing. And I don't know anybody who, I mean, I'm sure there are a bunch of fans, but like generally speaking, I don't know anybody who would genuinely think that, right?
Yeah, players themselves might be like, I wish we had that one.
Right? Yeah, right. But like, I like a 12-win season, and like again, all of this operates within context. If we cannot easily explain, let's say they go 9-8, right? I think a lot of us would be kind of bummed out if they went 9-8. That's fair. But is it disappointing for JJ McCarthy? Well, we have to answer some questions. Who was hurt? Who was healthy, right? If Justin Jefferson is out again for like 8 games or something, I think we'd give him a little bit of grace, right? Or if the defense steps back, they were second in DVOA last year. If they meet that like crazy football outside, FTN projection of 18th in DVOA, and then they go 9-8, well, I think that would speak well to JJ McCarthy, right? If we can visibly understand that defense is not as good as it was, then we can give ourselves the context for what McCarthy's season looks like. So that's a very weird approach from someone who I think is generally quite analytically minded about these things, especially somebody who talks about like, close games and sustainability and turnover luck and stuff like that. And I understand this is separate from that. This is about public expectation and pressure, but it just seems like fans do have the ability to discern when a defense is bad, right? That's weird.
The local beat was here when the Vikings moved on from Case Keenum after winning 13 games, and then saw Case Keenum go to Denver and like not be good. So like the idea of that moving on from a quarterback that won 14 games, that dude was Sam Darnold. Like we know what's going on there, right? Like that's there. This is not your average 14-win quarterback in any way, shape, or form. So moving on from that guy, like to the local beat, it's like we just saw this, and everyone still worked at the Star Tribune who still works there. Like they covered this already, so that is not a foreign idea at all. I think
if Sam Darnold had a bad season and Kirk Cousins had a good season in Atlanta, a totally understandable approach there to be like, that was a disappointment. Sam Darnold didn't meet his expectations.
They shouldn't have moved on from Kirk. Yeah,
right.
But they now 2 years in a row, they've moved on from a quarterback that is, going to be the unquestioned starter the next season, at least to start. But I'm willing to forgive this sort of shallowness from a random fan of the Raiders. You're not watching the Vikings. You're going, oh wait, they won 14 games and they changed quarterbacks. That's kind of weird. But for somebody who talks about the league for a living and has for decades, I would expect a little bit more of a thought through understanding of the dynamics of the team, which is all out there and publicly available. Call me. I'll tell you what's going on. Put me on your show, Bill Barnwell.
How about just understanding of the cap? How are they're going to go get a veteran quarterback to fit in next year's cap situation?
No one incorporates that into the it's good for us to have that understanding when we're explaining it to people, but if we're talking about and to give Barnwell just a little bit of credit here, he understands that a fan or a national media talker or whoever is putting pressure on these quarterbacks, right, understands that the nuances of cap dynamics are not going to play a role in that discussion. It's always a difficult sell for someone who's mad about a team that underperforms when you're like, well, let me tell you about the cap. No one likes that, right? So I get that, that doesn't play. Sam, I think that you're right, that if we want to evaluate this like serious analysts, we should take into account things like cap dynamics. But if we're projecting kind of the way a Stephen A. Smith is going to react to the season, assuming he talks about teams other than the Cowboys, then the cap is not going to really matter to the way he thinks about it.
I think that's a well-analyzed point. Machu Meach wants to get Chad Graff on for Patriots Week.
That sounds great. Do that.
Yes. Yeah. One of my favorite people on the beat, Arif, your former coworker, Chad. He's with New England now. We've got a kind of a big picture talking point about this roster. I think we can almost stand here and say that Kwesi's vision has come to fruition now that he's solidified so many key pieces of this roster. How does it all look in retrospect? Kind of a philosophical talking point when we come back. This episode is brought to you by Rougiette. Guys, you might have heard of Viagra or Cialis, might have tried them at some point. But if you're looking for something beyond those usual pills, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. That's a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. It ships discreetly after you connect with your board-certified doctor. Comes right to your door. It's totally online. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information.
Start the clock. It's time to execute the 4-minute drill.
Quick one to close. The Minnesota Vikings roster has really come full circle. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who was so hesitant for a couple of years to commit to anybody, has now committed to everybody. In year 4 of the Kwesi regime, I think we can say the competitive rebuild is basically complete. And now that so many of these pieces are in place, how does it look in retrospect? The way that they went about it, the way that they put this roster together. Let's make it a 4-minute drill. I'll give 2 minutes each to you because we have no Inman today. Let's start with Arif Hasan.
I don't really have a ton to say here. I think that it generally looks good. I think Kwesi was already vindicated last year when the team did Obviously he has some weaknesses, things like the draft, but we don't have a large enough sample size. Reports from camp, before the pads come on, mind you, are that Donovan Jackson looks good. He showcased recovery against Jonathan Allen, and I think if you've got that first-round pick plus Jordan Addison looking pretty good, I think you've made up for your reputation in the draft. So I think that, plus how successful, seemingly, the UDFA groupings from the Vikings are, plus how actually clearly successful the free agency is, I think that the Vikings are navigating the tightrope really well. It all kind of does fall on J.J. McCarthy. If Dallas Turner looks good, it's not going to matter if J.J. McCarthy doesn't. So we're not really going to be in a position to fully evaluate the competitive rebuild approach where you're competitive every year, but you still reload at key positions like a quarterback, which is really hard to do, until we see a lot of sample from McCarthy. But seeing stuff like Dallas Turner, adding strength and still being, in coverage, seeing stuff like Ty Felton, impressing. Isaiah Rodgers, for example, has had really good camp reports. Seeing all of that come together does give vindication to Kwesi's approach, which I want to be clear, I made fun of. So, I would love to see some egg on my face for this Vikings team to be successful in spite of all of that.
Braun.
Yeah, when you first introduced the idea of competitive rebuild, it sounded like this funny oxymoron. But think about like the expectation that sets, right? There is this like dichotomy that people, I think, is a very false dichotomy that you must either be, competing now all in, borrowing draft picks and money from future years, or you have to be in the tank where you don't care at all. You're in a full rebuild and you're building to the future. You have to choose between now and later. And it was like a rejection of that dichotomy. We do not have to choose between now and later. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah took over a roster that had gone, I believe, 7-10 the year before, went 13-4 with largely the same roster in that crazy 2022 year, and in doing so, did not compromise their ability to completely reshape it over the next 3 years. The roster we see now is indistinguishable, or is completely different from the 2022 roster. There's like CJ Ham and Harrison Smith, I think, are the only players still around from those, or I guess and then Darrisaw and Jefferson, guys that have been extended. But even that is like a transaction in and of itself. So everything has Kwesi's stamp on it now, and they just went 14-3. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah are 34-17 as the drivers of this boat, and they've put the roster in a place that is locked up for the foreseeable future, has a reasonable, I'll say, cap situation, one that is, there is some restructuring they have to do, but they have the room to do it. They're not really going to have to do any creative problem solving, and appears to be ready to furnish the surroundings that you need to develop a young quarterback. Whether that young quarterback works, Arif's right, is going to determine the legacy of Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell way more than this competitive rebuild thing ever will. But like, did they remain competitive? Yeah, 34-17. You can't tell me that's not competitive. And did they rebuild? Yeah, it's a totally different roster, and it's one that has as much of a contention aspiration as anything that they had when they inherited it. So yeah, they did the thing. Whether it will win the Super Bowl is up to the actual selections that they made, but the overall approach and strategy has absolutely been vindicated.
100%. You guys are the best. We'll do this again on Thursday. Well, rescheduling our preseason fantasy draft for a week from today once Luke Inman returns. Can't wait for that. Viking Squad Show rolls on. Find us on the Locked On Vikings audio feed. We're streaming on Locked On Vikings YouTube channel and Locked On Sports Minnesota. Appreciate the viewership, listening, subscribing, commenting, all of the above. Talk to you next time on the Squad Show.